Hey there, and welcome to the Fedora Podcast. I'm your host, Eric the IT Guy Hendricks, and this is episode number 36. Today, we're going to be talking about the next generation of Linux. And yes, that was intentionally clickbaity because the topic that we have not only just changes the way the technology is built and deployed, but I think it'll change how we think about the operating system. So I couldn't have this conversation by myself. So I wanted to bring back a former guest of ours, Timothèe. Welcome back to the Fedora Podcast.
Hey, hello everybody, and hi Eric. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for volunteering to be in the hot seat again and to answer all of my questions.
Glad to do it.
So, for those of you that haven't met Timothèe, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you do, the usual gamut of questions.
Sure. So I'm Timothèe Ravier, and I'm currently working at Red Hat as part of the CoreOS team. So working on Fedora CoreOS in the Fedora community and on Red Hat CoreOS on the product side for OpenShift. And in the Fedora community, I also work on the Atomic desktops, help maintain Silverblue and Kinoite mostly, and things like that. And on outside of Fedora, I do work on KDE, where I help develop application, and I help with the Flatpak application that are available on FlatHub, maintaining them.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so you're awfully busy. But the important question is, when you're not Fedora-ing or Red Hatting, what do you like to do for fun? Or is Fedora your sense of fun?
It's also my sense of fun, but yeah, I try to have something else as well on the side. Right now, I'm learning to drum. I'm learning drumming, so
Okay.
Practicing on a small pad with drumsticks and trying out on a real drum set in the studio.
Nice.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've gone very, very far away from tech and my hobbies. I've discovered the beauty of having a library card again for the first time since I was probably in middle school, and I've been reading like crazy. It's been nice. Once the sun starts to go down, I'll sit out in the backyard and just read for a couple of hours. It's fantastic. And the nice thing about paper books is there's no notifications. There's no swiping to read something else and then realizing you haven't done anything. So been enjoying that. Wouldn't mind a drum solo at some point though. What do you think?
Yeah, the drums I do. It's a bit of the same. When you're drumming, like you're in the zone, you do it. You're in the studio, and like most of the drum studios are like soundproof because you don't want to annoy everybody when you play the drums. So like in your box, you do your thing, and nobody's disturbing you. So that's good.
Love it. So we actually had you on the show last year. So what have you been working on since? Anything new and exciting in your world?
Yes, and I guess it's kind of the topic of today's discussion. And so, since last year, we've been introducing the new project that is called the bootable containers, or for short, we often call it BootC. And so, BootC, it's both a format, it's both a project, it's a lot of things. And the main idea here is that we're moving. It's the next evolution of what we currently have for the Atomic desktops and all those things in Fedora. So yeah, the main idea is that we're using the container format to ship the operating system. So we're putting the system inside of a container and using that to make modifications. So you can modify the content of the operating system just like you would modify a normal application container. You can install it on a system and update it using the same container tag. That's really powerful.
Yeah, I first came across this through Red Hat Enterprise Linux, in fact, back in probably the last week or so of April. Rel calls it image mode. And the concept is absolutely mind-blowing at first. When you think about it, we're taking the entirety of an operating system, which we were told could never be done, and shoving it into a container, a container that you can actually build off of. You mentioned a number of use cases, from atomic desktops to deployment processes. In my brain, I'm thinking, former recovering sysadmin, I'm thinking this would be a very easy way to build out base images, golden images, basically being able to, on your laptop, spin up a container of whatever server or desktop operating system that you're going to be using, build on it, iterate on it, test it, and then deploy it to a centralized repository for mass distribution. So if you're running an enterprise, you could build desktops that meet your corporate standards. If you are building if you're building a workload, you could excuse me, you could sorry, let me back up. If you were developing a workload, you could actually build out the workload on a standardized image and then share that with the other developers, and it would be identical. And you could even see exactly how that image was built, because it's built on not just container technologies, but methodologies, from either building out the image itself, hands on keyboard, or using, say, a Docker file. I mean, this is really a different way of thinking about the operating system.
Yeah, exactly. It's the main idea behind all of this is that we've had so-called image-based systems for a while now in Fedora. So we call them atomic desktops, or OS3-based systems, or RPM-OS3-based systems, Fedora IoT, Fedora CoreOS. All of those are the same family. But the thing is that you mostly had to take those systems and use them as is. And if you wanted to make modification or distribute modification, it wasn't really easy to do so. And so with the container tech, it makes it much, much easier to do so, because you can take a BootC, a bootable container image, do some modification inside of it, and offer it to everybody else to use it. It's notably what the Universal Blue folks have been doing with this technology. They've made opinionated, enhanced version of the atomic desktops and made them available for everybody to use. So do check them out. And yeah, it's really based on this core principle that you can extend and offer that again to for people to consume and use. And that's really powerful.
So I just found out about all of this in April, and that's because all of a sudden we were going to make an announcement that Red Hat Enterprise Linux at Summit was going to be using this technology. But what was sort of the problem that you and your team decided needed to be solved? What was there a moment where you sat down and just was it over adult beverages at some point, maybe at a conference, and you just went, I bet you $10 that I can shove an operating system inside of a container? I mean, what kind of talk through what was the moment where this project came alive?
That's a good question,
and making something up is perfectly acceptable. I mean, okay, maybe not, but
yeah, I guess for the light bulb moment, you would have to ask Colin Walters, which is like the mastermind behind the BootC project, and which has done a lot of the groundwork around it. I think the story is less fascinating or less magical, in the sense that it really happened progressively, because this is something like technically from the basic part, like putting a system inside of a container, we've been doing that for a very long time in OpenShift. So in Red Hat CoreOS, it's been like that since the beginning of OpenShift 4. So it's already been something like a good bunch of years. I don't remember exactly how old OpenShift 4 is. So this was already it, but you couldn't really modify it at the time. It was shipped as part of a container, but you couldn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then we decided, okay, let's make it a real container. And so Colin and other people from the team worked on that and actually made it a real container. And so once we started having that, it became, hey, okay, now we have a real container, we can modify it, and etc., and we can do all of the things. And then progressively, we're iterating on this model where we get to a point where we can do a lot of things on top of that, on top of the container native tools, on top of how you can change things, how you can link things together with other containers, etc., and all those things.
Sorry, there was a noise upstairs, and I'm just checking to make sure my daughter's okay. I promise I'm not just searching Twitter, but
No worries.
such is the life of a parent when you're doing live streaming. We've talked about CoreOS, and we've talked about RPM OS tree. So I want to take a second and define that, just in case some of our listeners are fairly new. In fact, it's funny that I pulled up my cameras here at home because I grabbed my phone to do so. And so even if you've not used, say, Fedora Atomic or one of the Atomic desktops, or if you haven't deployed an RPM OS tree based system, I guarantee you're familiar with the concept, because cell phones and mobile devices have had it for years. Basically, the operating system is contained within this environment that, like you said, it isn't modifiable, at least not while it's running. So just like you get an update for your phone, it goes out to the software vendors' servers, pulls down the new update, pulls down all the dependencies, all within one package. Then you restart your device into the new image, and then all of a sudden, instead of running 16.1, you're running 16.2. And then the application layer is another layer on top of that, and then there's user data, which is modifiable during runtime. So if you aren't familiar with RPM OS tree, actually you are. You just haven't thought about it from a server or desktop perspective, and that's where Red Hat OpenShift's CoreOS comes into play, because OpenShift is sort of Red Hat's distribution of Kubernetes, if you will. It's an opinionated Kubernetes, and the underlying operating system is locked down, and only OpenShift itself has the ability to modify those images. And so the Atomic project actually predates OpenShift a bit, at least in its current iteration. But Atomic desktops are designed to do a lot of the same thing, and you see the idea around Atomic desktops for kiosk machines, that you don't want somebody gaining administrative access, or you don't want someone modifying, because you want that operating system locked down so you can guarantee functionality. You can, I don't want to say guarantee, but you can better protect your operating system from nefarious uses, because you'd have to do that at or before boot time. So when we're talking about Atomic and CoreOS and RPM OS tree based images, that's what we're talking about. So you don't modify these like you do your standard desktop, where you go in and you use DNF or maybe the App Store to make changes. So Timothèe, did I have that about right? Did I leave anything else? Anything out?
Yeah, that's exactly on point. I think the cool thing, the cool thing with this technology, with the image mode brands in Fedora, is that they are super reliable. And so updates happen in the background. You don't have to wait for updates to happen, and you only need to reboot once they are completed to get the new version. And you either get the new version or you get back the previous version that was still working. If anything happens, if whatever fails, power failure, disk failure, something else, you unplug the current, the power on your servers for whatever reason, it's okay. Your server will always come back with the working version or the new version if the update completed before that. So that's like the cool part of all of this, is that it's super reliable. And so having the container stack introduced into this world makes it easy to customize and super reliable. And so that's like the super combo of this mix here.
So if RPM OS tree and Atomic and all that is designed with runtime in mind, then BootC is kind of the precursor to that, where we're actually developing the image. You want to talk about some of the distinctions between maybe using a Docker Compose file, or not Docker Compose, good grief, a Docker file, or maybe manually editing images. You want to talk through those processes?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. So the idea with bootable containers is that you have your operating system inside of a container. And so you can use a container file, a Docker file, and any container native tools to modify it, to modify the content. So you can install additional packages, traditional RPM packages. You can create users groups, and you can also add content that is not packaged in an RPM. That's something that's rather not difficult, but like not practical to do on classic OS3 system, and is much easier to do with bootable containers, because you can just use another container, import content from another container, or copy content, or build binaries and copy it inside your container image, just like you book on an application container, and use it in your final bootable container. Once you've built your container, then you can go and deploy it, push it to a container registry. It's a standard container, so it works with any container registry that already exists, with it Quay.io, Docker, anything, Artifactory, anything you would like. And then you push that out to your servers, and that get the new updated version. They reboot on it, and they get the same bits. So they get the exact same bits that you pushed out to the container registry. Every server that you use, that you tell to use this version of the container, will get the same bits. And that's like the best part of it. It's like you're sure that you get the same content on all the machines. So yeah, it's really part of the, hey, I want to push the changes instead of doing all my changes locally on systems, having the customization happen on all the systems, having like running a lot of custom scripts, running Ansible playbooks, or running Puppet scripts on servers. You want to shift all of that back into building the image at the time you build the image. So you can even run Ansible playbooks in your container file to modify, to configure your container image, to configure your system, commit that into a container, and then push that out, etc., etc. Get that out to your servers, and you benefit from all this configuration step happening before you even have to deploy that into a server.
Yeah, where was this when I was a desktop administrator? Don't answer that. That was like 15 years ago.
Yeah, it takes time. We're getting there.
So we're kind of we're kind of I mean, this is new technology, but then again, it's built on some very, very popular existing technology. So it's moving incredibly quickly. What's on the roadmap? What? Goodness gracious, it has been a long day. This is a 4-day work week for me. I'm off on Friday, and so my brain is already starting to shut down as we record. Good grief, I'm so sorry. So while BootC itself is newer, it's built on existing technologies like Docker containers and or Podman containers, I should say, and so it's being developed incredibly fast. There's been so many iterations just since I became familiar with the project a few months ago. So what's on the roadmap right now?
Yeah, it's moving really fast indeed. It's like it's something that has been cooking for a while, but like really jump started a few years ago, and yeah, it's in full steam, working full steam right now. One of them, so BootC as itself, the project, and the bootable container images, they are available right now. So if you want to use them in Fedora, you can. If you want to use them on CentralStream, they're available, and in Releated image mode as well, the product side of things. So you can use them right now. There's plenty of docs available, plenty of tools. You can build them using Podman desktops, so you can build them on, I think it works on Windows, Mac, Linux, or everywhere using the same tools. And it's really practical. So but then what comes next? So one of the big challenge is that we have a lot of already existing Fedora users of technology of the previous generation technology. So one of the challenges that we want to move all of those users to the new cool things, to the BootC world, and to all the benefits that come with it. And so we're working on converging all of the atomic desktops, converging Fedora IoT, converging Fedora CoreOS with the new version of BootC with the advantages of BootC. And so that's like a pretty big chunk of work that's happening kind of in the background in a sense, but as part of this work on standardizing essentially on bootable containers for all of these Fedora variants. Then there's plenty of stuff still happening in BootC itself. I have a link about a demo that Colin just made and just shared around how he integrates BootC with other containers. So how he links system containers with BootC, so that you can have your system that is built inside a container, created inside of a container, and shipped as that. But at the same time, you might want to have something like a node agent or a web server that is tied to the version that you're shipping for your system. And you want to make sure that you're not just getting any version, you're getting this specific version of the web server or the node agent with this specific version of your server image. And so with this upcoming work, you can do that. You can say, okay, now I want to have this specific set of containers that I'm sure they will be available at boot time, because BootC will manage them as well. We will make sure that they are there. They are here. They are still like standard containers. They are still running via Podman. It's just that BootC is making sure that they are here on your system at the same time, and they are matching the version that you're asking for inside of your container image, your BootC image. So that's like pretty cool feature that's coming soon.
Yeah, and you mentioned a couple of links, and now's a good time to mention that if you check the show notes shortly after we go off air, I'll have links to things about Podman Desktop, the video demo that Timothèe mentioned, as well as some getting started guides and some issue trackers. So if you're interested in trying out BootC for yourself, you can definitely do that. Or if you'd like to get involved, I'd imagine that there's plenty of work to be done.
Yeah, definitely. I can mention a third cool feature, which is
yes, please do.
Which is kind of like here and coming at the same time. It's the ComposeFS. We're looking at unifying on ComposeFS. So ComposeFS is by itself, it's kind of a file system, but not a file system. In a sense, it's a collection of things. It's using a collection of components in an external to make out a read-only view of the file system. And so we're working, it's already integrated in Fedora BootC images if you're using them right now, but we're working on integrating that as well in all the variants so that you can benefit from this. It's like really the evolution of the OS3 storage format and all of this, and how we're going to bring much better, potentially even performance improvements, storage improvements, and security, integrity to the systems. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about what we can do with this ComposeFS. It's really cool thing.
Love it. So I found out about BootC through Red Hat, and you being a fellow Red Hatter. Let's talk a little bit about the interactions between the Red Hat engineering team and the Fedora engineering team. How are the two organizations working together? Are they kind of sharing priority on this? What does that relationship look like?
I would say we're not that separated in a sense. I think for a lot of folks, it's not really like two different teams. Like it certainly depends on for different. Like if you look at CP, so the Community Platform Engineering, the team that is responsible for managing the Fedora infrastructure, so most of them are hired by Red Hat, are Red Hat employee, and so they are dedicated on working on Fedora. For me, for example, it's a little bit different since I'm split in, if you can say that, between the product part and the community part. So I do work in both, and most of the time, 99% of the time, everything that we do upstream first. So if we want to create a feature, add a feature to a product, first we'll add the feature to the community version because we want to have this available upstream first, make it available there, be developed there, discussed there, designed there, design in the open, worked out in the open, tested there as well, and making sure that it works as we want it to be, but as also other people want it to be. Like it has to be useful for other people. We're not building stuff just for ourselves. We're building stuff for users, and having this be useful to the community is also pretty important as well. And yeah, then as part of the process, we get that out in CentralStream, making it available to a lot of other distributions that are based on CentralStream, and then finally it is set up in a Red Hat product. But it's pretty, a lot of the time, this is really much all of the trying to figure out like how we put this in how we share the code first and how we make sure we work on those things first upstream before we actually make this into a product.
So I love it. It's really interesting being on the Rel technical marketing team, but also being a Fedora contributor because I kind of watch things come together from both sides. So from a community aspect, what can listeners do to get involved? What needs are there? Obviously, adoption and awareness are a huge matter right now. Getting more hands on the code, getting more people working with BootC containers. But if someone wants to dive in and really get involved, what are some of the initiatives that our listeners can be a part of?
Yeah, so BootC itself is a community initiative in Fedora. So if you want to join us and work on BootC related projects, you can do that. We definitely need help on all fronts. So depending on what you're interested in it, there's a lot of work to do on all of the sides. There's work to do in Fedora Chorus to help us test and move to more closer to BootC. There's a lot of work needed in Fedora Atomic desktops to, again, make them move closer to BootC to bootable container images, help us with the transition. We need a lot of help with that. If you're more into IoT side of things, you can take a look at IoT and look at how they're doing things. They have the same kind of work to do, but if you're more into I want to dive in right into BootC, the work there, the projects, you can take a look at the documentation about BootC. The product it's fairly small-ish breast projects right now, so it's pretty reasonably fast to compile, reasonably easy to get your head around and grasp and try out things. So it's pretty interesting to look at. And yeah, there's plenty of things to do if you're into documentation, trying out things, documenting, trying out figure out things that work, things that don't work. We have a big issue. We have already a issue tracker with kind of a good bunch of issues in the BootC issue tracker, and yeah, we definitely welcome help on a lot of those topics.
So Timothèe, how do you feel about answering a question about Flatpak for Firefox?
Hey, sure.
So
That's
Linux Benchmark asks, are there plans to bring Flatpak Firefox version by default in Silverblue and Kinoite? What's missing to make that happen?
so yeah, that's a frequent question, and yeah, what? So the context is that in the Fedora Atomic desktops right now, we ship Firefox as part of the base image. So when you install operating system, you get Firefox installed inside of it, and it's pretty nice because like it ensures that whatever happens, even if you uninstall all your Flatpaks by mistake, you still have a working browser. So for a lot of people, working browser is kind of important, and so it's like the part, the core of the idea at the beginning was that we need to have Firefox inside of the image. But now some people want to switch browsers and use something else, or use the Flatpaks, or use the Flatpak from FlatHub, or things like that, and that's totally fine. And so yeah, we're looking at options to move the included Firefox from being included into the image to being a Flatpak. There's a tracker issue for that. It's in the Flatpak repo. I can link you to it. It's over there. And yeah, it's being worked on by, I think it's a lot of people working in the desktop team at Red Hat are trying to chip on the remaining bits that are missing to make that happen. It's a complex topic because Firefox browser does a lot of things now. It needs access to USB device, cameras, microphones, all things, work well with password managers. There's tons of stuff that is expected to work with the browser and that people are expecting to work. And so it's a lot of things to figure out. But it's progressing.
One of the advantages to having an application in a Flatpak is that it can be somewhat contained, almost like a container, but not quite. Flatpaks do not equal containers, but they're close. But the nice thing is to be able to contain what an application can and can't get access to, whether that's files, configurations, hardware. So something like Firefox that has to do everything from playing videos to using a GPU to render to, like you mentioned, microphones and speakers. So a browser's really, really difficult to contain, and when you're using something like a Flatpak, you're talking about punching a lot of holes into that box to try and allow Firefox to do everything it needs to. So I definitely check out the link that we'll include that link in the show notes about Fedora Flatpak issues. Timothèe, I'm shocked that you had that link so quick in hand. So kudos to you. So next question, I can take this one. Not very often does someone ask a question on one of these episodes and I have the answer, but I do because I work in RHEL. So Richard asks when BootC will be GA in RHEL. So we haven't released a GA date for BootC. 10.0 is a good guess. Again, there's this technology is developing so rapidly that it's too soon to wager a guess, though RHEL 10 does seem like a logical time for it. But what I can say, and why I'm guessing RHEL 10 might be a good place, is that as of 9.4, which was released in May of 2024, so earlier this year, RHEL 9.4 actually has BootC support in tech preview. Again, that's tech preview, not production, not GA. Please don't go use this in production and then call me when your stuff breaks. It is in tech preview, but it's really, really cool. I've seen some of the demos. I talked to my technical marketing counterpart, who's our main BootC guy, and every other day it seems like he's sending us messages about, I just tried this and it works and it's so cool. I mean, it's just I love technology. So a good guess might be RHEL 10, but that is just a guess. Timothèe might know better than I do, in fact. Anything you want to add on GA or RHEL or OpenShift?
No, you're exactly on point. It's like for people in the audience, the idea is that we're not allowed to give you dates.
Well, there's that too.
It's just a standard Red Hat policy. Like we're not allowed to give you any dates. There's like certain things you might guess the next will release when it will land, but we're technically not allowed to give you any dates. So we can only give you best guesses.
Mostly not allowed just because engineering gets upset when we do. It's like, you want me to get this done by when?
Yeah, it's a legal thing.
Oh yeah, there's that too.
Really...
All right, before I get myself in any more trouble with the marketing team here at Red Hat, let's move on to the next question. So Alan asks, what are notable obstacles to using BootC, Atomic Desktops, etc. in the Asahi project?
So it's a good question. I've been working on that. So I've got a MacBook hanging over there, and I got an initial version of Silverblue and Kinoite working on it. And the next step is to actually make it usable for everybody, just like the Fedora Asahi work, Remix work is right now. And one of those steps is building the images using Kiwi. And so we need to build out the system in a specific way, prepare the image so that they can be installed. And so I've been working on that in the background. But yeah, hopefully at some point I get that finished up in a state that is good enough so that we can have Atomic Desktops and other BootC brands working on Fedora Asahi on Apple systems.
Awesome. Yeah, the Asahi mix is very interesting approach. I put Arch on a MacBook Pro way back in the day, before they even considered doing silicon-based laptops. But yeah, it's interesting to see what the Asahi team's doing. In fact, I think we've got them on our radar to have on the show at some point. So definitely be exciting to hear what's going on over there.
They're doing really great work. So I started out from a regular Fedora Asahi Remix installation, and it's working super well on the MacBooks, on the Macs.
It's hard to fault Apple for producing such a beautiful piece of hardware with so much power crammed into it. So anyway. So the next question from Alex. Alex asks, when will Fedora Atomic users be able to use some kind of BootC native desktop version without RPM OS tree?
It's a trick question because it's both soon and not so soon. So theoretically, you could use it right now. You could take Fedora BootC and install all the desktop bits that you want, and you get a BootC bootable container desktops, and that would be just it. Except it's probably not what you want to do right now because it's still a little bit inefficient for various reasons, and so you could do it, but it's probably not what you would want to do. Then there's okay, but Universal Blue, how are they doing it? Because they're doing bootable container desktops, right? Well, we're producing bootable container images of the Fedora Atomic desktops. We're this close, I promise this time, to actually build them on the Fedora infrastructure and have them be released on Quay.io and properly be there. And so right now, these images are still unofficial. It means that I'm building them on GitLab CI and not in GitLab, not in Fedora Infra, but it's the same bits, it's same Fedora tools, same Fedora code, same manifest, everything is the same. It's just not signed by Fedora. And once we get them officially built by Fedora infrastructure, you will get bootable container images with BootC inside of it for the Atomic desktops. So you would be pretty close, almost really, really close to what the Fedora BootC image is. Not 100% yet, but pretty close.
Gotcha.
And then the next step, next part of the question is when do we remove RPM history? And that's an entirely different, another topic in and of itself. Right now, there are things that are not yet possible with BootC that still require RPM history. So it's going to be a progressive transition. We cannot just rip things out and break everybody setup. So right now you will still have both installed on your system. You can do most of the things using BootC, or you can decide to do most of the things using RPM history, but still using container tech. And progressively, when things get ready, you can move and switch out to the next version to switch to fully using BootC. But it's going to happen progressively across the release.
It's good to know. Good, very good to know. All right. So Albert asks, are there plans to replace grub in favor of systemd boot?
So you're asking me, so you're going to get my opinion? Is that we should do that right now? But yeah, that's probably not going to happen right now. At least not in Fedora 41. But yeah, so there's no real concrete plan right now. The main thing is that Fedora works for a good bunch of architectures, and so systemd boot only works on UEFI system. So that means if we want to switch to systemd boot, essentially it's going to be that we still have grub for some and systemd boot for others. I'm not part of the bootloader team, so I don't have the full context of all the things work. From my perspective, I really like systemd boot, and I would really love if we could get this as an option working for setup. It's probably what we will use at some point if we move to. So something you might have heard of is UKI, confidential computing setups, because it's much easier to do it with systemd boot than with grub. So it's definitely on the radar. But when this will happen, it's unclear right now.
Awesome. Well, I figured I'd throw that out there in case you had opinions, because I hadn't heard any immediate plans. But then again, although if you are on the bootloader team, would love to talk to you. I think we could have a really good conversation about grub, the process, because I talk to as many of our podcast listeners as I can, and we've got a full range of people that are just brand new to Linux or brand new to Fedora, to longtime users, longtime contributors. And I love diving in occasionally and just talking about something that we take for granted, like the sheer amount of things that happen before you even put in your username and password. So if you work on the bootloader team, let's have a conversation. All right, I got time for one more question here. And so Dreamy UKI asks, are there any plans to make Snap usable on Fedora Atomic? Interesting question.
Interesting question indeed. I think the answer is going to be please ask Canonical or Ubuntu folks about it, because I don't really know. Essentially, I think I remember that Snaps depends on a lot of AppArmor things for the confinement, and a lot of those patches are Ubuntu only and not upstream yet. So yeah, they're not in Fedora, so it doesn't really work well in Fedora. Apart from that, I don't really know. I don't use Snap, so I don't know much here. Sorry.
Ever since FlatHub became, excuse me, goodness, ever since FlatHub became as ubiquitous as it is, I haven't looked at Snap since. I love me some Flatpaks. So, as we're coming up on the top of the hour here, Timothèe, any closing thoughts? Any last minute call outs or anything you want to bring to our attention?
Good question. What did I add in the notes? Oh yeah, we in the notes that we'll share. There's good set of videos. So there's plenty of docs and about it, and of course there's code, but to learn about things and like another bits and teachers about roadmaps, how we're trying to push things forward, and all those things. There's 2 videos that we've made, 2 presentation, 2 talks that we gave at DevConf in Brno earlier this year that cover those topics and explore a lot of the implication, a lot of those things. And yeah, you can go ahead and watch them. That should give you even more context.
Awesome. Well, Timothèe, I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you coming on to talk with us about BootC. And it may not be as clickbaity as I thought. Being able to build out your operating system as a container before you deploy it, and then being able to use container registries and everything to validate and build and deploy your operating system, I think that's going to be huge. I cannot wait to see what the Fedora community does with it. I'm really excited to see what Red Hat can build out of it. There's just so much going on and so many cool things to try out. Lord knows I've been trying to use Fedora to deploy an LLM here in my home labs, and so BootC is definitely next on my radar of things to try. So I'm glad we had this episode. I'm really glad that we got some of those videos published out on our YouTube channel. That way you can go and see it live, see it in action, and try it for yourself. So Timothèe's been my guest today. If you have questions, thoughts, or if you try this out for yourself, please put that in the comments. Would love to hear from you. There's a few of us that check the YouTube comments almost on a daily basis. So definitely an easy way to get a hold of us and get in touch. Otherwise, you can join us over on Matrix. You can connect via the Element client. It's probably the easiest way to get plugged in, but join the Fedora community out on Matrix. In the meantime, in 2 weeks, gosh, what's next? Fedora QA? I think Fedora QA is our next episode, but that's in 2 weeks. And then after that, we've got probably about a half a dozen topics and guests lined up to bring content with you. So my hope has been to get these out every 2 weeks. So we're going to try and double down on that a little bit here. Of course, we'll get into a good rhythm, and then it'll be the holidays. So awesome. Well, that brings us up to time today. On behalf of Timothèe, my guest today, and the entire Fedora community, thank you for watching. Make sure if you just happened upon this episode that you hit that like button and subscribe so you get notified every time we go live or publish new content. There's some brand new content from Flock. Just at the time of recording was just a few weeks ago, so definitely check out some of the content, some of the presentations. I will be honest, I haven't even begun to dive into that backlog yet, so really excited to see what the Fedora contributor community has been talking about. So may actually end up as some cross-pollinated content on this show. So until then, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate your time and attention. Timothèe, thank you for joining me. Really appreciate the chance to barrage you with questions for an hour.
Thank you very much, IT, for Eric. Sorry for Eric from having me. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
For sure. Well, everyone, thank you so much. And until next time,